Hi there, I'm just going to take a quick look at an age-indicated tawny port here. So I have a bottle of Graham's 20-year-old tawny. Graham's quite an important port house actually, founded in the early 1800s by two Scottish brothers who actually had a textile company initially and were trading with merchants in Portugal. Evidently somebody paid off a debt with presumably a pipe of port, which they sold, and found that was quite an effective way of trading, and so got into the port business. Today, Graham's are part of a larger group, the Symington group, a family-owned company that have a number of quite important houses. So you have Dow's, Graham's, and Warre's are the principal port houses, although there are some smaller ones that they also own. Graham's really sort of probably best known for their vintage ports, which tend to be really rich and generous in style. So as an age-indicated tawny port, what we have here is a wine that has been made through a short maceration of the red grapes during fermentation, during a sort of a warm fermentation with quite a bit of agitation, that is quite short and is finished by the addition of spirit to fortify the wine up to, I mean, this is 20% alcohol now where it's been bottled, and that stops fermentation and leaves the wine sweet. The character is then crafted by aging the wine in oak barrels, and although this says 20 years, that is an age indication, it's not a guarantee, and in fact the style is produced by combining wines of a number of ages. So the wine will contain older wines, maybe significantly older, I mean there could easily be 40-year-old wines in this, and also younger wines, because while the older wines will add complexity, the younger wines will actually add freshness and vivacity to the blend, which can be equally important. You can get single vintage tawny ports, but they tend to have their own quite different style, and I guess an age indicated tawny can be more consistent from batch to batch as well. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? The wine's colour is it's a medium nutty brown with a sort of an amber rim. There's actually a tiny touch of sediment in there as well. As I swirl it, unsurprisingly for a wine with 20% alcohol and probably somewhere up to 100 grams per litre of sugar, probably 80 to 100 grams per litre of sugar, it's quite viscous. There are some quite obvious tears run down the glass as I swirl. On the nose, the nose is a little restrained, but there are quite vivid notes of dried fig. Maybe a slightly spirity top note, maybe a tiny touch of sort of smoke or charcoal and that sort of note there. I mean, the aging is in old barrels, so there's not vanilla notes or anything like that coming from oak. And let's taste. There's a real rush initially of quite rich sultana raisin notes, followed by sort of at the mid palate, sweetness being quite obvious, but as the spirit, the alcohol becomes more obvious, you can see slight rancio notes of maybe slightly of bacon fat, but also of very clearly of dried peel coming through there, by dried lemon peel. But then there's quite a drying texture. There's an astringency. It doesn't completely dry itself out because there's a smooth chocolatey note that is sufficient to stop it from being completely drying, but it makes the mid palate quite lean, which is a bit of a contrast from the sort of the rich fruity start and the high alcohol, and leaves the finish sort of drier, smokier, nuttier, but then at the end, that sort of sultanery note comes through again and re-establishes itself alongside the sort of the notes of candied peel, which I guess is the acidity as well showing through. So there's quite a rush at the beginning, and then a more elegant, delicate tail to the wine, and it has a nice length of I think it's the sort of wine that would pair really nicely. The candied peel notes in the end, it would pair really nicely with nuts sort of thing, sort of Brazil nuts, walnuts, those sort of thing. You could also serve it with desserts, and I suppose actually the texture would make it quite a nice match for chocolate as well. So thank you for watching. I hope you found it interesting, and do join us again sometime. Bye now.